Last week, Van Jones, who is a frequent contributor on CNN, went on Facebook Live to discuss the campaign season and specifically the direction that the Bernie Sanders campaign has gone in. So first, I do want to give him a little bit of credit because he did acknowledge some things that really had nothing to do with Bernie Sanders at all, things that he couldn't control, namely the lack of coverage that Bernie Sanders has gotten. Corporate media has paid little attention to him, and when they did, it was often negative attention. But when compared to Hillary Clinton and especially Donald Trump, their numbers were, or their coverage was out of this world.
Yeah, because, Bernie's, platform and his rhetoric is policy-based, and Trump's is more bombastic. Right. And I think the consequence of covering Trump, you end up covering Hillary Clinton too.
That's true.
Because a lot of Trump's rhetoric has been centered upon Hillary Clinton, so it automatically became about those two, and kind of Bernie Sanders was like the third wheel.
Yeah, because so the corporate media has been framing Clinton Trump since very early on. Also, what Van Jones talked about was how Bernie Sanders has had to fight against the DNC and Debbie Wasserman Schultz as well. Schultz scheduled 6 debates initially, which of course didn't give Bernie a really big platform to, communicate his message to voters. 6 debates compared to 2008 when they had 26, I believe. So, he's had to fight against the corruption this whole time. Super delegates who very early on in the process decided that they were going to back Hillary Clinton, which is kind of unprecedented. The large majority of them decided that they were going to back Hillary Clinton. I wonder why. Couldn't be a deal or anything they struck, right?
Were they getting something out of it?
Yeah.
You trying to say that?
Nah, let's not
put
that
that
out there.
That's another can of worms.
Yeah. Also, he talked about voting irregularities that has happened everywhere in the country, pretty much. We saw that in Illinois. We saw that in New York. We saw that in Arizona. So he talked about that. But I do have a problem with him saying voting irregularities. Call it what it is.
Because
election fraud.
Yeah. Because when you say voting irregularities, you make it sound like it was just
a mistake.
Random mistakes that happened during the primaries that caused some problems. No, but it wasn't.
This was intentional.
Yeah, it wasn't. Part of some sort of neglect or kind of something done on purpose.
Right. The large part of Van Jones' commentary, his Facebook Live video, was about how Hillary Clinton was able to capture the black vote and Bernie Sanders was not able to catch it. He began by saying that if you just want to say that Bernie Sanders is losing right now and he lost the black vote because of corruption, then that would be ignoring the truth.
But has anybody been saying that? Has anybody been saying that, like...
he's talking about the narrative that the establishment has robbed Bernie.
Well, he kind of suggested that at the beginning, though.
Yeah, that's why I don't really agree with them on this point because, okay, Hillary Clinton is a famous name. She's a celebrity. She's known to black people because of her husband and her husband's time in the White House. We know that, right? But what he was kind of saying was that Bernie's message, especially the message that's tailored towards black people, racial justice and things like that, right? It wasn't often communicated in the best way. And that's where I disagree.
Yeah, yes. It's not that it wasn't communicated in the best way. It's just that it wasn't covered when it was communicated.
Right. That's exactly right. Because I've been to Bernie Sanders events, and he talks about racial justice. He talks about black people. I don't want him to only talk about black people, because that would make no sense. Because black people aren't the only people that occupy this nation. It would make no sense. Now, when we see that the corporate media gives him really no airtime, no coverage whatsoever, just seconds of coverage.
So of course that message wouldn't get out.
Exactly. So for the people that aren't doing their research, for the people that are just looking at corporate media, they're not seeking out independent media and stuff like that and doing their own research. You're not going to see that Bernie Sanders has a message for black people. You're just not going to see it because they're not giving it to you.
Like when he said that sentencing unfairly affects black people,
right?
Or when he talked about Sandra Bland, or when he talked about racial division within our country,
right?
He talks about all of that, and you get an endorsement from Erica Garner,
yes,
and actually one of the most important things people should know is the fact that probably the most prominent person in regards to racial justice, Sean King, he supports Bernie Sanders.
Right.
So how does that not stand out?
Like I said, these are things that you would have to search. You would have to do a little bit of work. And it's not a lot of work. It's not, because everybody has a mobile phone nowadays. Everybody has internet nowadays. So it's not a lot of work to do that, to find that information out, but it's just not enough people do it. They're just not engaged in the political process. So all they're getting is these little tidbits of information from CNN, from MSNBC,
yeah.
And they're not seeing, or they never saw that Bernie Sanders, for instance, that he participated in the civil rights movement. They don't know that.
Or since you bring up the past, but what about like right now? He tapped what's her face? Simone Sanders, right. No relation,
right?
As his press secretary,
right?
And she works directly with Black Lives Matter,
right?
And she said herself that that the Sanders campaign took what she told them and just ran with it and added it to a part of their platform,
right? And see, look, for me, I believe that Bernie Sanders did does in fact have a better plan for action in regards to black people than Hillary Clinton. That's what I believe.
And you remember what you before this video, you were talking earlier about the little 10 points.
So we were talking about Black Lives Matter and their campaign and their platform, which is Campaign Zero. On their website, they have Campaign Zero. It's a list of 10 issues that they want some action on. They want some movement. They want some progress. And Bernie Sanders has always led the way on that chart, if you want to call it. And right now he has talked about 9 out of 10 of those issues. Hillary Clinton at the moment has talked about 6 out of 10 of those issues. So it was a loose endorsement of Bernie Sanders.
That's why it confused me when Van Jones said he had a racial blind spot. And I was what?
No, it's not that he had he actually said that word too. He said a racial blind spot.
The media had the blind spot.
Exactly. Yeah. That the media chose, and earlier I was saying the media, it's like they didn't do a good job at projecting Bernie Sanders and giving way to what his platform is. But no, they did a very good job. They intentionally withheld his platform. They didn't want to give him attention because his platform, a presidency that involves Bernie Sanders, is bad for corporate media. Everybody knows that. It's bad for the establishment.
Corporate media, the Democratic establishment, or you could say the machine. Right. They are a part of the machine.
Right.
So why would they give coverage to somebody who puts throws a monkey wrench in that machine?
Big old monkey wrench. Exactly. So that's where we disagreed with Van Jones, because it wasn't that Bernie Sanders couldn't communicate the message to black people. It's that the media didn't allow them to.
True.
Yeah.
True. And to segue into another issue I have with his commentary is the fact that he kind of transitioned into another topic, and that was neoliberalism, as if when it connects to Bernie Sanders. And I was like, what? You're talking about centrist Democrats.
Yeah.
You're talking about these supposed liberals with progressive rhetoric that now kind of get these high amount of dollars from big money. That's neoliberalism. You have a progressive rhetoric, but now you're trying to compete with the Republicans, and you think you can create progressive change while taking money from the very entities that negatively affect people's lives. But that's not Bernie, though. No, I'm wondering why he kind of went in that direction. That's
the other candidate.
Hillary Clinton?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's her.
The other one.
Because you remember when Bill Clinton came into office, it was the New Democrat, right? It was that centrist Democrat that they wanted to campaign
and
on.
They wanted to appeal to big money. They wanted to keep up with the Republicans, thinking that they can do the same thing, but still create that change.
It was kind of like the opposite. You know how Reagan had, the Reagan Democrat? Clintons, they wanted, I guess, Clinton Republicans.
Well, considering who she's courting now, she's courting Republican donors now. Right. It makes all the sense in the world.
It does. So later on, he did make a point that I did agree with. He said, you could make the case that the racial justice left is stronger on principle than on precincts. So I do agree with that, because Black Lives Matter, they really came to prominence last year, even though they started earlier. They really got into the national conversation last year. So what I was hoping was that they would firmly endorse Bernie Sanders and officially endorse Bernie Sanders. They didn't do that. And you had an opinion about why they didn't do that.
Yeah, because they didn't want to make their movement reliant upon one person.
Right.
And I think that, they probably, it would have been kind of diminishing in a sense. And what happens is when they endorse someone, I think Americans or just people in general will then almost try to channel all the change through that one person. And since Black Lives Matter has these 10 different points to deal with, I think that would kind of I guess narrow the movement a bit. Right. And I don't think they wanted to do that, because sometimes when we choose this one person to endorse, I think people tend to put everything on that one person and not, I guess,
on the movement itself.
Well, no, not just the movement, but the framework of the movement kind of gets sequestered to this one person.
So what you're saying is that they wanted the movement to be the movement, no matter who the candidate was.
No matter who the candidate was, because these issues need to be addressed.
No matter who.
And they need to be addressed broadly and not through this one candidate.
Even if Black Lives Matter did not endorse Bernie Sanders, they still didn't get people to the polls to vote for the better candidate. Because if you because look, just taking Black Lives Matter, just take their campaign zero. If you looked at it, you would see Bernie Sanders is better than Hillary Clinton on these issues. So just that in and of itself should have been, I guess, advertised better if you want to actually get people to the polls and vote for the best candidate on these issues. But that didn't happen.
But again, who is really in control of the advertising?
Yeah, it's the media. That's what I'm saying. Some more effort needed to be made. That's why I did want them to endorse, because the media is in control of the message to the vast majority of people in the nation. Just so many people are disengaged from politics. They're uninterested, or they're disillusioned. They just have no interest in it. One of the main reasons why I didn't want them to just talk about black issues is because there is one issue that impacts everything, and that is campaign finance. That is the one issue that impacts everything. So if black people want to see movement on issues that impact black people, the one issue that needs to be resolved is campaign finance, because that's at the top of the building. That's at the top of the mountain. If you don't deal with that, nothing else gets addressed. Nothing else gets fixed. That's what people have to understand, but I don't think they do. I just don't think they do. They just want to hear about their particular issue. But it's larger than that, and they don't see it.
And not necessarily the issues or the problems that connect to the issues.
Exactly.
Like private prisons.
Yes.
Obviously, that's mass incarceration.
Right.
And so if somebody is taking money from private prisons, what are they doing? They're encouraging mass incarceration.
Exactly.
But obviously, if I'm not stating it plain, like explicitly, this issue affects black people, that doesn't mean it doesn't.
Right. And see, that's what I'm saying. Like, so Bernie Sanders could have made that connection better.
I mean, he could have
done it. He could have done that.
Yeah, here every now and then, and here and there, he would mention it, but it's not like he just like
kept drumming. Yeah, exactly.
Like driving it home.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, he could have tied every single issue to campaign finance. He could have done that. He didn't. I mean, it's not like it was a horrible strategy. It's just there's a lot of things to talk about, you know.
But
there's
like
just
you
a
said,
lot of
though,
things to
even
talk
if
about.
he did connect it, do you think those people that you say don't look into it, you know, would be more informed, or do you think that maybe, just maybe, Bernie Sanders and his campaign should have kind of acknowledged, you know, how these voters connected to Barack Obama and appeal to that in whatever way they connected to Barack Obama, whatever that way was, even if it's superficial. Do you think he should have maybe appealed to that just a little bit?
I think that no matter what strategy he employed, we would probably be right here where we are. You know, he might have got a few more votes. I don't know.
It's woulda, shoulda, coulda.
You know, he might have, but I don't believe we would be in a different situation than we are right now. I still think Hillary Clinton would be up in delegates. We would still really be at the same place because
they already had their person.
Yeah.
They already had their person.
If he had more money to run more TV ads and stuff like that, maybe, how many people actually watch TV ads, radio ads, maybe stuff like that? I just don't know. Not enough people were familiar with Bernie Sanders, and the media, sure enough, weren't going to help them get familiar. So, like I said, we're where we're at, and I don't think anything could have changed that.